This month's Animal Artist Collective subject is Carnivora, and I have chosen to draw an Amur leopard on drafting film using coloured pencils. We usually think of leopards living on the savannas of Africa, but the Amur leopard, a rare subspecies, has adapted to life in the temperate forest of Far East Russia. The Amur leopard is a solitary animal, but it has been reported that some males stay with females after mating and may even help to bring up the young. The Amur leopard is critically endangered, with a population of only 84 individuals. It's poached largely for its beautiful spotted fur. Agriculture and villages surround the forests where the leopards live, and as a result the forests are relatively accessible, making poaching a problem, not only for the leopards themselves but also for important prey species such as roe deer, silkdeer and hare, which are hunted by the villagers both for food and cash. Amur leopards received a safe haven in 2012 when the government of Russia declared a new protected area. Called Land of the Leopard National Park, this marked a major effort to save the world's rarest cat. Extending nearly 650,000 acres, it includes all of the Amur leopard's breeding areas and about 60% of the critically endangered cat's remaining habitat. The park is also home to 10 endangered armoured tigers. The World Wildlife Fund lobbied for the establishment of this park in the Russian Far East since 2001. Links to more information can be found in the description. So I just wanted to chat a little bit about why I chose the drafting film and how I use coloured pencils and the different methods of creating fur texture, taking highlights out, making the whiskers, etc. How I do that on the drafting film. So drafting film is a polyester film. It comes in different types. This is the Grafix Dura-lar that I'm working on here. It's quite a thick film. It's opaque, so you can see through it. It's double-sided, so there's a matte coating on both sides, which means that you can actually use both sides to draw on, which allows you to get extra depth into your pieces. Incredibly, it's very, very smooth, but you can get quite a large number of layers onto it. You have to be very light-handed, so your pressure has to be feather light, but you really can get probably up to about 15 layers if you're really, really light-handed. The really wonderful thing about the film is that pencils can be laid down with very little effort. And the tools like the Tombow that I'm using here and the slice or a craft knife can be used to take out highlights and create texture really, really easily, and create some absolutely fantastic effects, as you can see on the ear that I'm doing here, creating those little sort of guard hairs. I've used a few different brands of pencil on this piece. I've used the Caran d'Ache Luminance, the Faber-Castell Polychromos and the Caran d'Ache pablos, and all of them work equally well. The colours seem very true on the film, and the laydown is very smooth, good blending qualities, and they just all work very, very well together. So I'm always asked a lot of the time how I create whiskers. Whiskers always seem to be a bit of a problematic area for coloured pencil artists, and people are never quite sure as whether we need to put them in first or put them in last, or how we put them in, or how do we get the bright white. On the film, they're actually very simple to create. And what I did with this one is I actually did all of the fur first. So I put all of the fur in first, and I didn't even think about where the whiskers were. And then once I got the fur in to a kind of, I've got a few layers in there, not totally finished, I then took the Tombow and just rubbed out the whiskers in the particular line where they needed to go, and just literally just rubbed them out with the Tombow. Nice smooth flow. I used the Tombow like a pencil, and I just whisked them out. And then I used the slice tool that I'm using here at the moment just to tidy up and clean up some of those sort of, you know, if you've got a little bit of pigment left in them, and then just taking your regular pencils, just tidying up the whisker area and around it, and finishing off the fur underneath it. So one of the things that I really, really love about the film is that it's fantastic for textured fur. you can use things like the Tombow, and you can use things like the slice tool that I've just been using there to create the most fantastic fur effects. So you put your layers of pencil in first, and then you bring in your slice tool or your Tombow and you just create the little fur details. The fantastic thing about the Tombow is that you can take out those lines and then you can draw in back over the top of them. So it's good for if you've made a mistake. Obviously you can rub it out, and you can pretty much go right back to clean film. With the slice, you can create the texture, and then as you can see with, I'm just laying pencil down here, but if you just look to the left of that pencil, you can see some really nice texture in the fur. That's been done with pencil down first, then creating the texture with the slice, and then putting pencil back over the top. So it misses out those slice lines and you get this really, really realistic looking fur. I find it relatively easy. You've got to be quite careful on this particular brand of film, the Dura-lar, because the slice can actually take off the surface. With other brands, so the actual drafting film, like the Grafix drafting film and the Polydraw drafting film, the slice tool doesn't tend to take the surface off, so you just have to be quite careful. And always sort of flicking off those bits of pencil dust and everything, and I tend to either just brush it away with my hand or I use a makeup brush. You can see here the start of some of the fur detail, and I always start with just very, very simple shapes, just drawing in around the highlights, if you like, drawing the shadows in rather than the highlights, and just creating those shapes. And the more shapes I can create, the more information and the more detail I can add into them, and I just find that for me is the easiest way of creating fur like this. So the drafting film is archival, it's non-yellowing, it's non-aging, it's acid free, so you can use it for your commission work if you wish. It's easily framed. With it being opaque, it's a good idea to put a piece of paper behind it. You can use white paper, or you can even put a background in or a different colour in, and it's quite fun actually to experiment with the types of paper that you put behind. I've even put some sort of Hessian behind pieces before, and that's worked really, really nicely. When you come to frame it, I have found that it's best framed with just one single small piece of tape at the top. If you try to strap it down on all sides, or if you put too much tape down on all sides, it can ripple, and that's not something that you want. So I just tend to put just a small piece of tape, probably about an inch and a half at the top, and almost let it hang, and then you're not going to get any rippling, which is good. And then you just frame it as you normally would a piece. Drawing on the film is fun, and actually it's relatively fast how you can get all of the details onto it. You know, you don't have to add tons and tons and tons of layers. You can go onto the back and add more, which is gives you some really, really nice effects actually. You can add colour onto the back. You can add you can warm the fur up a little bit by just adding some extra orangey bits on the back, which I think I do a little bit later in the video. And you can really darken up some of the dark areas by going into the back as well. It's not everybody's cup of tea because it is very different to your usual paper, but it is good fun. It's worth having a go. The majority of the techniques I've used on here are transferable to normal paper, obviously with a few tweaks here and there. My usual paper is pastel matte, and actually I use pastel matte in a very, very similar way. Obviously more layers, but the subtraction technique that I use with the Tombow and the slice, I use in a very similar way on the pastel matte. So it's not as if this is a totally alien way of drawing. This is, you know, it's quite similar to using on normal papers, but just using different tools to get the effects. So this piece was also created as a full tutorial for my patrons over on Patreon. It was, I think, a total of 21 hours to create it, which I don't think in the whole scheme of things is that long really. It's quite a big piece. It was done on 14 by 17 inch film, and the photograph was given permission by a lovely chap called Paul Brander. And if you wanted to see the full tutorial, you can head over to my Patreon. I've got the link in the description and also on the very end of the video. And there you will find, well, you'll find the tutorial for this. You'll find tutorials for all sorts of other things, using pastel mat, using black paper, using the film. I've also got a load of groups that you can join. We've got a fantastic chat, and it's just the most fantastic community, really. So if you did ever fancy, you know, joining my Patreon, then it's there, and it's a really nice place to be. So using the studios, the derwent studios, just to finish bits off, and then flipping the film and going in on the back to add the dark areas. Here you can see I've just flipped the film over. You can see how opaque it is. So everything, this is on the reverse side now. So I can really darken up certain areas. And here you can see I'm just adding in some sort of goldeny, browny colours just to richen up and warm up that area. Again, darkening bits, whitening bits, and then flipping it back over. And you can see, you know, it's very effective. It's a really, really fun material to use and to draw on, and I would highly recommend. So all of the information for the pencils I've used, the paper I've used, will be in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this video.